This is the Zwaan grist mill. I'm Darren, and this is the Industrial Revolution. You're looking at the oldest functional Dutch windmill in the United States. This Zwaan is 125 feet tall with 5 floors inside. The 80-foot diameter blades can run, even without the sails attached, on a wind of about 15 to 20 miles per hour. Adding the sails, of course, provides considerably more power, which is essential for maintaining the power available to grind grain inside. So the story was that de Zwaan was built in Krommenie in the Netherlands as a grist mill in 1761 on a raised base like you see it here. Just like windmills today, you want to get them up off the ground into the air to catch more wind. It was then moved to Finkel in 1884 and placed on an earth mound. During World War II, it, and many other windmills, was used as a lookout post and received serious damage. In 1964, it was purchased for just $2,800 and a promise to restore it and keep it running as an active grist mill open to the public, an ambassador of sorts. It was moved to Holland, Michigan, where it was rebuilt on a large brick base like it had in Krommenie. All damage was repaired, and it reopened as a functioning grist mill in 1965. It's not running today, despite the strong wind. Turning the upper part of the windmill is certainly possible, but it's not easy. Generally, they just let the windmill face west into the prevailing winds. Unfortunately, since the wind is out of the south today, we don't get to see it running. Let's take a look inside. So we're leaving the first floor now. The first floor has a door on each side to allow farmers to pull their carts straight in, unload them, and pull straight out the other side. Keep in mind that as we climb these stairs throughout the windmill, the stairs were built here for us tourists and aren't really original. Originally, there would have been a lot more ladders and steeper stairways. The first floor here has some historic milling equipment. You see hand mills here, which has similar operation, just much smaller millstones. You could turn this by hand. A machine for sewing flour bags closed once they're filled up. Another mill. We have some additional milling equipment and filters and things like that, which are critical for the milling operation, as well as having some various samples of the grain that's milled here, as well as the final result of the milling process for the different grains. You're able to take a look at these and check them out. Staff are available on site in the mill to ask questions. So if you see something you don't know, just ask, and they'll be happy to help you out with that. The locked central cabinet, that's the axle for the upper shaft. Let's go ahead and head on up to the third floor now. Notice that we're still surrounded by brick walls. This brick was recreated here. In its previous home, it was built on an earthen mound. This floor has a bunch of historic equipment, old tools, things like that. Let's take a look around. It can be interesting to look at some of this stuff. This floor is also used for packaging. That's why you see these chutes here. Since they're not grinding anything today, there's no packaging going on today either. shaft up the bottom of the millstone. That connects and allows you to support the runner stone. The runner is the top of the two millstones, which floats just above the base stone. It doesn't actually sit directly on it, it's supported over the top of this shaft. Let's go ahead and head up to the next floor. Down on the fourth floor, you notice the walls have turned to wood. This is the original part that was moved here.
Hello.
Some of the wood, of course, had to be replaced.
Me too, but I don't want to go outside.
The miller would spend most of the day up here. You see this chute is used for quality control. You can open the little trap door and see what the quality
Not yet.
of the grain is coming down, as well as the quantity of the grain coming down.
Lily did. She was talking about you not. You. I am perfectly comfortable in that here. That's why I'm how high I am.
Here's the sampled chute for the second millstone. So this shaft is actually the elevator shaft. It goes all the way down to the ground floor and it keeps going on up to the floor above to where we have the millstones. This hoist was wind powered if there was wind. If there was no wind, you had a manual override on it. You could actually hoist it up by hand. Let's take a look outside. So the catwalk up here gives you an opportunity to actually get a close look at the blades if they're not turning. On days when they are turning, of course, you can't really get a chance to see them up close. These things are huge. So notice those little metal plates in the floor of the catwalk as we go around. Those are critical, and we'll come to why here in just a moment. So you see that big capstan wheel? That's what you use to actually turn the windmill. Real small windmills you may have seen on farms will turn themselves into the wind. Big windmills like this don't do that. So what you do is you use this capstan, you loosen up the chains a little bit, then you unhook them, move them to the direction you want to go, and then use the capstan to actually pull the windmill in the direction you want to go. It's not easy, and they don't do it very often, which is why they haven't turned it today. But a single person climbing up on that capstan wheel can actually turn that whole upper part of the windmill from sort of where you see that ring around it, that whole section turns. The rope there, incidentally, went to the brake mechanism, and that would actually stop the windmill blades if you needed to. You don't realize just how big these blades are until you get up there next to them. Each steel and wood blade is 40 feet long, 6 feet wide, and each one weighs about 1,650 pounds. This is part of one of the original blades, moved here in 1964. You see all those holes along the side? Those are actually bullet holes, which Zwaan received during the war while serving as a lookout tower. The blades were replaced as part of the repair work when it was moved here, but this piece of the blade was retained to remind us of its past. See these closed lockers? That's where you actually stored the sails when you weren't using them. Let's go ahead and head back inside now. We'll go on up to the final floor. This is where the millstones are. You see there's two millstones in Zwaan. One of them is set up for operation today, and the other one's actually open. And that allows people to get a better look at what's actually inside, because normally all you see is this wooden cylinder with grain going into the top, like you see right there. If we look up, we see the big central wheel that's connected to the windmill directly, and that smaller wheel to the side, that cog, you can swing that in and out of the larger wheel, and that starts and stops the millstone. Each millstone has its own cog, so you can put them in and out separately. You can run both, neither, or either one of them if you like. And here's what's inside of that little can that you don't normally get to see. In the top, you see the large hole. That's called the eye of the runner stone, which is the top stone. The eye is actually where you pour the grain. These little notches in here, those are for weighting or for balancing the runner stone. If it's not perfectly balanced, it's going to drag on one side, it's going to wear on evenly, you're going to be throwing away your stone pretty quick, or at least having to redress it far too often. The grain comes out between the stones and the bottom, and these are wedged up considerably higher than they normally would be. And you also have these little holes in the side. Those little holes are to attach the crane, because you have to periodically go in, lift the runner stone off, and redress the stones. And those holes in the side allow you to do that. You have the wood shoe here. The grain is put in the shoe, and it's automatically vibrated by the turning of the runner stone. The grain goes down into the eye there and is ground, and then comes out between the stones all the way around. It's collected between the stones and routed down to the chute and heads down to the lower floors.
They're threaded.
So here we have the top of the grain hoist. That white rope is the one that goes all the way to the bottom and can be hoisted up here. The thicker rope can be pulled by hand, and that will let you pull up a couple of 50-pound bags at a time of grain fairly easily from all the way to the bottom. Well, let's head downstairs, because there's one thing that I did not see, which was how you adjust the millstones up there. But you have to remember, the miller actually works mostly on the floor below. So if we look down here, you see those little blue weights hanging on those levers? Those adjust the angle on the shoe up above that the grain goes into. And that's what actually adjusts the rate at which the grain pours into the eye of the millstone.
Allows the wheat to flow into the middle of the millstone.
You can then look in the chute here and see if your grain is going through too fast, or if it's clogging up, or if you want it to go through a little bit quicker.
What mechanism?
And also see if it's finely ground
stones?
enough.
This,
If it's not finely ground enough,
right here. This
then
is
you use
attached
the
to
rope
the
here,
levers above,
and you
which can
pull up or down on this
adjust
rope,
the top millstone,
which
bring
goes
it
up to the top,
to the bottom.
and it adjusts the lever, which connects to that metal rod under the base stone that I showed you downstairs. That moves the runner stone up and down and adjusts your spacing, and that adjusts how fine your grain is. So we head back upstairs. Now that we know what we're looking for, you see that red rope? That's where the one is down at the bottom. That connects over this long lever, which goes across. And if we get around the shaft here, that connects to this next lever. That connects to the metal rod that goes underneath the base stone, which then lifts and lowers the runner stone. And now let's go ahead and head back downstairs. And as we do, there's one more thing I want to show you. If we look up here between the floors, You see the regulator back there, those two little balls. Those actually control the speed of your stones. If they spin too fast, you can actually burn your flour, which makes it worthless. If they spin too slow, you can clog things up, and that's not good either. So you want to make sure you have a good speed. So you use a regulator. In some parts of the world it's called a governor, and that actually maintains a fairly consistent speed on your mill. So let's head back downstairs and head outside. Again, remember, these stairs are here purely for us modern tourists. Originally, you didn't have this. We're back into the brick area again here. And coming back down to the first floor loading area and headed outside. Remember I said the story was that Zwaan was built in Cromony in 1761? Well, sometimes history and archaeology have a way of rewriting history. In 2015, while writing a definitive history of Zwaan, historian and miller Elisa Crawford discovered that Zwaan in Cromony had been dismantled in 1887. That's 3 years after Zwaan was erected in Windmill. It was clearly not the same Zwaan. Further research determined that this Zwaan was actually built in Dordrecht in 1833 as a sawmill and not as a gristmill at all. In 1884, the sawmill operation was converted to more reliable steam power, which made the entire upper section of the windmill unnecessary. It was this section, combined with parts taken from another wind-powered gristmill, which was then moved to Finkel in 1884, then here to Windmill Island in 1965. Converting mills between wind and water and steam and electricity was actually pretty common, as was changing the purpose of the mills, especially going from sawmills to grist mills, it seems. So in that, Zwaan is perhaps an even better example of a historic mill than if the original story had actually turned out to be true. So this was the last windmill, the last historic windmill, taken out of the Netherlands. Following World War II, so many windmills had been so badly damaged that the government passed a law preventing windmills from being removed. The people here in Holland, Michigan, really wanted an authentic windmill, though, and they were able to persuade the government to allow just one more windmill to be taken out. This one was pretty badly damaged. You can see the bullet holes in the original sails on it, the original blades, excuse me. And it took a lot of abuse during the war, as did many other windmills in the Netherlands. But they were able to get this one and move it here. And because of that, people here in the States are able to share in this piece of history. And that's why this is the Industrial Revolution. I do want to ask for some help. As you know, YouTube channels live and die on subscribers and likes. So if you are getting anything out of this video, out of this channel, you want to see more, please do hit the like button and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Hit notify, and if you can leave a comment also, if more than 2-3 words, YouTube really uses that in the algorithm to decide, hey, there's interaction going on, this is a great channel, it's going to show it to even more and more people. So that's the best way that you can help out the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon page at patreon.com/industrialrevolution if you could help out there. Memberships start at just a few bucks a month.